Finally, I'm going to close out this episode playing some of the first Phantasy Star. This is another series I'm mostly unfamiliar with. I've played about 2 or 3 hours of Phantasy Star Online Episode 3 about 13 or 14 years ago, and that's it. This game was originally released on the Master System, but as you can see I'm playing the Sega Ages version on the Switch, because it's the only means I have to play it, and because of some small additions to make things more convenient. Seeing as this is an RPG, my goal is more than just to beat the game. I'm going to collect every treasure and max out all my characters' levels. This version also has a monster guide filled in as I kill enemies, so I'll be completing that as well. I'm playing this in original mode, but with the Japanese FM music because it just sounds better, and displays on the side of the screen showing party HP and maps just for convenience. So what's the story? It's Space Entry 342. In the city Camneet on the planet Palmer in the Algol solar system, a man lies dying on the floor, beaten by these soldiers working for some guy named Lassic. Just before he dies, the man, Nero, tells his sister Alice that Lassic is going to cause the world's destruction, and that she should find a powerful warrior named Odin to help her defeat Lassic. And with that we gain control of Alice. First thing I do is walk into this warehouse. Dungeons in this game are presented in a first person view, and this is why I'm using the map on the sidebar, otherwise it'd be way too easy to get lost in these. However, since the map fills in as I explore, it does mean I'm going to have to fill in every map square, which means exploring any dead ends. Yeah, I'm one of those. I find a chest with 50 Mesetas, which is the currency in this world, and leave, but not before filling out the map. Next I walk around town to see what everyone has to say. It's a bit weird because to talk to people you have to walk onto the tile directly below them and then you're automatically talking to them. I learn of a spaceport to the west, get told Odin lives in a town called Skyon and get given a Laconian pot. I'm denied access to the spaceport, informed of some sort of deal in the port town, learn that the other 2 planets in the Algol system are named Motavia and Deseris, and buy a leather shield. And, most importantly, I meet Suelo, who will allow Alice to stay the night in her house whenever for a full heal for free. With every other town having hospitals that charge for a heal, Suelo is the best NPC in the game. And finally I find the church, which is for reviving fallen party members. Not useful at the moment with just Alice, though they do let me know how much experience I need to level up. Only 20 experience points. Easy. Despite the threats of the guards, they don't actually stop me leaving town, and here I am on the world map. I know that these old RPGs are quite brutal at the beginning, so I'm going to get straight to leveling up. And I get my first fight against an owlbear. I know a lot of enemy names are badly translated, but whatever, it's only got 18 HP, I'm going to annihilate it. Oh, that's not how I thought that would go. I know most of these games tend to be brutal, but I wasn't expecting that. I try again and run into a swarm. 2 of them in fact, as you can see in the corner. The game only shows 1, probably because of the detailed animated enemy sprites. These guys are a lot weaker than owlbears, but I still lose more than half my health and I only get 4 experience altogether. It seems leveling will take longer than I thought. And already we get to my least favourite aspect of this game, the chests. Every fight ends with a chest being left containing money that other RPGs would just give you. The problem is, some chests are randomly traps, which will damage your party, so you have the choice to risk taking damage for no reason, or not get any money. It's not game ruining, but it did piss me off a few times, because it had nothing to do with how well I was playing the game, just, fuck you, lose some health. But anyway, right now I'm saving after every fight and return to Suelo for a rest because I know I could be destroyed at any moment. One thing I love about this game is that I can save anywhere, anytime. Doing so was smart because the next fight was against another owlbear, which killed me even quicker. And after reloading the save, I'm put up against 2 of them. Owlbears and swarms are the only 2 enemies in this area, and owlbears are much more common it seems. Considering after I reload the save again I get another one. I just want to kill some bugs, damn it. I try the area outside the city walls and get owlbeared again, so I give up on the area. I know now it's actually the better place to start because they're less common, but that bad luck put me off trying again. But after 7 owlbears in a row, I've never been happy to see a giant fly. I've still got to kill another 7 though before I level up. And I only get more 5 minutes later. In 19 minutes I've managed to kill a total of 5 enemies, halfway to level 2. But nearly 10 minutes later I finally do hit level 2. I am so going to destroy those owlbears now. No, don't give me more swarms now, I've grown past them and ready for wrecking owlbears. They're afraid of me, aren't they? They know what's going to happen. Finally, I'm going to fuck you up. I'll go back to killing flies. I know I've got to kill 11 more swarms to hit level 3. Eventually I get enough money to upgrade from the short sword to the iron sword. Wait, this sword? This shop was in Paralit, the town right next to the forest I was fighting in. One guy tells me about an underground passageway somewhere connecting to the Gothic Forest somewhere to the west. I also learned that the port town the guy in Cabinet mentioned is Skyon, town Odin is from, and that it's to the east. I'll remember that after I'm done grinding. And there's one guy who warns me of a Medusa in a cave to the south. Please no more Medusas. Lastly, one guy just tells me the forest is a dangerous place. You trying to be funny? Well, back to fighting. Of course I barely get to try out that new sword before I get ganged up on by 2 owlbears. At least I'm killing swarms in 1 now, so things are going a bit quicker. I get the first single owlbear in a while, and I know I shouldn't, but I just have to see if the iron sword will make a difference. That just hurt. A while later I get another one. I was so close last time, so against my better judgment I give it another try. Yes! 4 to 6 minutes in and I finally killed one of the first enemies. It leveled me up and all. And that level made all the difference because my very next fight is against 2 owlbears and I kill them too. And the next pair, I feel invincible. A bit more grinding and I hit level 4, learn a heal spell so I don't have to bother Suella as often. At this point I'm aiming to get 320 Mercedes to buy a titanium sword. So almost an hour in, I finally leave that tiny area for real to find monsters with better money. While out there I had Wing Eye and Scorpion, so the monster guide along with Dead Tree. Eventually I get the money and buy that sword. Now there are a couple of things I want to buy in the next town, so I want at least 600 Mercedes next. Now, the guide I've been following just in case said not to walk on the beach and end up fighting a fishman. But I'm on a roll. Owlbears aren't a threat anymore, I got my tit sword, I can take them. Okay, no I can't. While farming money I hit level 5 and Alice learns the buy spell, which I believe I never use. When I'm almost to 600 Mercedes I also get to level 6, Alice learns chat, which I also never use. Well, I now have over 600 Mercedes, time to go east to Skyon. Except on the way I get attacked by a tarantula, or Tarantul because of the character limit on enemy names. These arseholes can trip a party member in a web and leave them unable to act for a couple turns, and when you only have 1 party member, that's a huge problem. So I die again, even with all the progress I've been making. This time I make it without running into one. This is the town Odin is from, so we'd better look for him. I buy a light suit from the armory and try to buy the secrets from the second-hand shop, but the shopkeeper refuses and kicks me out. So I try 2 more times and he gives in and sells me a road pass, which means now I'll be let into the spaceport. That was a deal mentioned in Kamini and it was definitely worth it. I learn about needing a compass to get through something called the Epi Forest, alright, and of a cave called Iala on a peninsula to the south and one called Nala off the north coast of Baia Malay. Another says that last one's on a hill to the north of Skyon, just more stuff to remember for later. One guy mentions finding a talking beast in Medusa's cave and selling it to a merchant in Pasaya on Motavia. Another says Odin went to that same cave with a talking animal with some medicine around its neck. I think it's safe to assume these two are talking about the same being, so I guess I'm off to another planet already. So I go back to Kamini and with my road pass the guards let me on this really long escalator to the spaceport. Before I continue, there's more NPCs to learn stuff for later from. There was a spaceship built in the ruins of the Gothic laboratory, probably connected to that Gothic forest mentioned a while back. Apart from that, I also find out the governor who rules Motavia lives in the town I'm heading for. But before I can get on a ship, I need a passport, which I can get here. With that, I'm off to Motavia. I can tell a lot of ambition went into this game, wanting to do 3 fully explorable planets on the Master System. I don't know of any other RPGs from around 1988 that tried something like that. So here's Motavia, the planet of sand. In the spaceport I learned that there are antlions on the planet, and that the cave Nala that was mentioned in Skyon has a cake shop deep in it. One more thing about Motavia is it has my favourite world map theme of the 3 planets. I only hear 2 seconds of it on the escalator though. The very first building in Paseo and I find a guy claiming to have an rare animal, and will trade it for either 1 billion Mercedes or the Laconian pot I was given in Kamini. The animal is named Meow, who tells Alice Odin has been petrified and Meow has the medicine to cure him, but he can't open the bottle because he's a cat. He also joins the party but at level 1. One guy tells me that Lassic and the governor are on bad terms, so I definitely want to meet up with this guy at some point. I also want to buy a weapon for Meow, but I don't have the money, so I'm going to farm money outside the town. Now I have 2 party members, I can take on anything out there. See, just some scorpions, this'll be easy. Oh, that's a shame, but Meow was still level 1, so I could kind of expect that. But Alice has got this. I never learn. Fine, I'll go back to Palmer and save Odin. I buy a couple healing items and flashes, and enter the Medusa's cave directly south of Paralit. And it's pitch black, which is what the flash is for. A new enemy for the monster guide, the green slime. I run into the petrified Odin and use the medicine on him. After introductions, Odin reveals the reason he went after Medusa is because he has a mystic axe, but it escaped. And before we leave, Odin also hid a compass somewhere, which I guess is for that epic forest the guy in Skyon told me about. I also want to fill out the rest of the map too. Now this is only the first proper dungeon in the game, and look at this map already. This is why I'm having the map on screen. With everything being in first person and everything looking the same, knowing where I am would be a nightmare without making my own map. Which I know some players look back to fondly, but it has no appeal to me. Meow reaches level 2 just a couple steps before I find the compass. I also start getting encounters with up to 6 enemies at once, and believe me, at this point in the game, this takes forever. Especially since single target attacks hit a random enemy, so you can be unlucky enough to be keeping all 6 alive, which means more damage per turn. While I'm clearing out the rest of this dungeon, Alice hits level 7 and Odin level 2, followed by Meow reaching level 3 the very next fight. I leave Medusa's cave, and believe it or not, things are mostly going to be easier from here on. In my experience, it's always the beginning of these old RPGs that are the hardest parts. Also, I like how Alice just assumes that just because Suelo lets her stay in her house whenever she wants, she'd also be fine with Alice bringing total strangers in with her too. So south from Medusa's cave is a town in the middle of a forest. This is Epi. I don't actually know what happens if you come here without the compass. Does the town not appear on the map or something? First thing I do is buy a needle gun for Odin. Guns are different from other weapons in that they attack every enemy once in a turn and always do a fixed amount of damage, the trade-off being that they aren't as damaging as regular weapons. All I really learn here is that some guy called Noah lives on Motavia, some guy called Lavino had a laboratory near that gothic forest I keep hearing about, and that an old guy hid a dungeon key in the warehouse in Kamenet. So that's where we're going next. And on the short walk back, Odin reaches level 3. Back into the warehouse, and there's suddenly another chest on the map, and as the old man said, it contains a dungeon key which lets me open certain doors in dungeons. Now before I continue, I'm going to need 1,000 Mesatas, and since I have 3 party members, I'm going to have another go at the fishmen. I end up fighting 5 of them first, and they gang up on Meow and kill him early on, which leaves me in a cycle of Alice casting heal and Odin slowly whittling down with his fixed 5 damage a turn. Alice reaches level 8, and I learn that a team of 5 fishmen gives me 210 Mesatas, so hopefully this shouldn't take long. And at this point it only costs 60 Mesatas to revive Meow, so I don't lose too much money on the resurrections. But I go back to fighting outside Epi just in case, and end up fighting a new enemy, the Werebat. Both Meow and Odin hit level 4, and a single Werebat drops 63 Mesatas. I make a quick detour from saving up by buying Odin a bronze shield before going back to the fishmen. With Odin's defense boosted, I only have to worry about babysitting Meow, but they still gang up on him and kill him close to the end. On the way back after reviving him, Odin reaches level 5. Third attempt doesn't start off so great, with them targeting Meow again immediately, and leaving him with only 50 HP at the end of the first turn. Despite that, I make it out the fight with all 3 alive for once, and Alice reaches level 9. A few minutes later, Meow reaches level 5. Next fishman fight, Odin reaches level 6, and after 2 more fights I have over 1000 Mesatas. So I head north of Skyon and add Maneater to my monster guide, and I also get revenge on the Tarantula. I keep going north and eventually reach Naula Cave, and this is why I need to get the dungeon key first because I can't even enter the place without it. This place is a bit more complex than Medusa's cave, being a 4th-floor dungeon. The only new enemies I found were the Gold Lens, another eyeball with wings, and the Evil Dead. And Odin gets to level 7 after my first fight with them. Aside from that, there was no interesting treasure in this place, so I'll just mention that Alice reached level 10, Meow got destroyed by a group of Werebats, so I trekked all the way back to Kamenet to get him back. On the way back, he got to level 6 and Cure, while Odin reached level 7 that same fight, and Alice reached level 11. Down at the bottom of this place is a man who apologises for the inconvenient location of his shop and sells me a shortcake for 1000 Mesatas, but only takes 280 from me. Next fight, and Odin is level 9, I fill in the last little bit of the map before I head on out, and on the way back, Meow reaches level 7. After returning to Kamenet and healing at Suelo's, I buy a ceramic shield for Alice, thinking I was buying a sword. Turns out it was Paralit that had the ceramic sword, and now I can't afford it. So back to grinding fishmen for a bit, and after all the levels I gained in Naula Cave, they aren't much of a problem anymore. And after just 1 more fight, I have enough for my ceramic sword. I give it to Alice and pass her old titanium sword down to Odin. At this point I could continue the plot, but I decided to do a little bit more grinding. I bring Alice up to level 12, which teaches her the fire spell, and she becomes the first to break triple digit HP. Meow also goes up to level 8, followed by Odin to level 10 a couple minutes later. This all gets me enough money to buy the Zirconia armour for Alice, but I'm not done yet, back to grinding. Meow then reaches level 9 and learns Terror, and I make enough money genociding the fishmen to get Odin his own Zirconia armour. Followed by getting him to level 11 and Alice to level 13 in the same fight, and Meow to level 10 just a minute later. All that was enough to buy Odin his own ceramic sword. Nearly done, just got 1 more thing to buy. Another 1100 Mesatas earned and Meow is level 11, while Odin reaches 12 less than a minute later. The last thing I wanted was the magic lamp in the Paralit second hand shop. This will automatically light every dungeon for the rest of the game, so no more buying flashes for me. After that almost hour of grinding, I'm back on my way to Motavia. I wasn't able to get into the governor's house before because the tunnel to it had a door that needed a dungeon key. And this robot guard won't let me through without a gift for the governor, so he takes a shortcake I bought. Also, for a short unimportant tunnel, this place had its own unique, kinda sinister music. Strange. Out on the other side, I enter the governor's house. He helps me out by telling me to go to Maharu Cave and recruit an Esper named Noah, the guy mentioned in Epi. Also, the translator balls up and refer to him as her. He lets his party stay overnight, but in their sleep they are attacked by a succubus with 255 HP. It dodges most attacks, and the ones that do connect do little damage. It wipes out the party and they wake up from a bad dream. Well, that's just weird. Oh well, moving on. Oh, and a minor complaint. Having to reopen every door with the dungeon key whenever I return to a dungeon gets a little bit annoying. Outside the town, and let's try taking on one of these antlions. Bollocks, that's not an antlion. This is an antlion. That's just a tarantul painted brown. Aside from adding to the monster guide, there's no reason to do it. They give pitiful experience and money, and they don't disappear from the world map. Also, its chest exploded on me. What an anus. While trying to look for another evil farmer for the guide, I run into another new enemy, the Gold Scorpion. And raise Alice to level 14, which teaches her rope for escaping dungeons. Thankfully, the house in front of the governor's has another woman who will give me a free heal. She's no Suella though, she doesn't even get a name. Finally, I get an evil farmer to kill for the monster guide, and at this point I'm so close to the 630 Mercedes it cost to buy a thick Firth and Meow, I decide to hang around a bit longer. During this I run into an N farmer, whatever that stands for. With Meow finally getting himself some armour, I can move on. Another enemy for the monster guy on the way there, this time the Crawler, shortly followed by the Barbarian, or Barbrian because of the character limit. I got 6 of them, which made this a really long fight. But it was worth it for the 534 Mercedes from the chest. And just as the Maharu Cave appears on screen, I get one more new enemy, the Leech, just a stronger Crawler. It gets me out to level 12, which teaches him Wall. You know, I don't think I bothered using most of the magic that I learned. Then a couple steps later I have to fight 2 more. And then right outside the entrance I get 4 more. I just want to get in the cave, please. Except no, the cave will have to wait because Odin died. Time to walk all the way back, revive Odin, go through the tunnel, go into the house to rest, go back through the tunnel and set off back again. This time I make it back there in one piece. Once again there are no interesting treasures in this place, mostly small amounts of money and colas. First new enemy I find is a red slime. And while I'm on this floor, Alice reaches level 15, halfway to the maximum level. Some evil farmers then get Odin to level 13. You know, I'm very arachnophobic, so a tarantula just popping on screen like that isn't a good time for me. But I never had a problem with spiders in games before a certain other RPG fucked me up with them. But it'll be a long time till I do that game, if ever. Anyway, while filling out the map I end up falling through a trapdoor to the next floor, leaving 5 squares not filled in. Luckily I fell right next to the stairs back up so I could fill them in and make everything alright again. While filling in the map for this massive floor, Meow gets to level 13. In the centre of this floor I run into Noah, who doesn't like me interrupting his training. But Alice gives him the letter from the governor and Noah lets us know that our next destination is the Gothic Forest, finally, to find Dr. Lavino, and that hidden passage there is in the spaceport. Good thing I already got hints of these talking to the NPCs because he doesn't specify which planet spaceport. If you didn't already know, you'd be most likely to expect it to be in the spaceport on the planet you're currently on. But whatever, our party is complete. Like everyone else, Noah joins at level 1. He also has the smallest pool of usable equipment in the game. You're supposed to use his magic to make up for that, but I'm stingy with MP so I often don't. Being level 1 in this cave, it doesn't take him long to reach level 2. Before I leave, there's a hidden floor reached by walking through this wall here. Down there is a chest containing 2,000 Mercedes. Nice. The other corner has a red dragon. Not so nice. It obliterates the party, leaving me with just Alice at 34 HP. So I decide I'm going to fill out this last floor on my map and just run back to Paseo, escaping from every battle. But a trio of red slimes ends that plan. This time I decide to just take the chest with the money and leave. I'll come back later to fill in the map. I'll be stronger by then too, so I'll be coming back for you. On the way out, Noah also gets level 3, but he dies on the way back to town. Alice doesn't though, she reaches level 16 instead of dying. Take notes, dead Noah. She also learns her final spell, Fly. Back in town, I revive Noah and get on the ship back to Parma. Oh hey Suello, I'm just bringing another strange man into your house unannounced, I hope you don't mind. First thing I do after healing is have a brain fart and waste over $1,000 on a ceramic sword for Noah that he can't equip. I can only sell it back for 500 too. And that is where I'm leaving Phantasy Star for the week. To recap, I have Alice level 16, Meow and Odin level 13, and Noah level 3 with my destination being the Gothic Forest. As for my thoughts on the game itself, I'm enjoying it at this point. The beginning was a pain, as I expected it would be, but things only went up. So far it is one of the better 8-bit RPGs I've played.